I really feel like there's a new way for us to maneuver and look at how we perceive our emotions. Now, today's video is what are your emotions telling you? So, I wanted to also like tie this in terms of like doing the work that you need to do in order for you to understand where your emotions are coming from and what you need to do from them. Now, I know that it is so easy to be overwhelmed, by our feelings, whether it's the overwhelm itself or whether you're feeling sad or happy or angry, Sorry, but I feel like every emotion is giving us a signal that, hey, maybe you should look into this and maybe do something about it. And if you're not doing something about it, then it's definitely a moment to like process, like whatever's happening, so that maybe later there might be a lesson that might be revealed from how a situation made you feel and how these emotions came about. I find that when I am feeling overwhelmed, it's usually a sign for me to just, take a breath and take everything in a way that I am processing it. Then when I'm feeling overstimulated, it's a sign for me to just, put some dopamine away and be quiet, be still. And I think that it's so important for us to understand our emotions, our thoughts, because they tell, they're like signals. Let me say that. They are signals that, hey, something could be going on here. Maybe you should, like, check it out, find out, and do what you need to do in order to just, have the signal pipe down a bit. But I've been really thinking about emotional intelligence and how, as humans, we are just these big receptors of like frequency and emotion, and how empathetic people feel and how the people who are not empathetic like are just numb from feeling anything. And it's so interesting that there are like two different, or rather not even two, but it's really a spectrum on its own, and each person processes or feels differently, and that is a whole big conversation that I think could ultimately help us to see each other in different lights. I think that perspective is so important, and our emotions can give that to us. Another thing with emotions is that they are so normal. They're so human. Sometimes even when I come across somebody who's nonchalant, that's still a feeling. That is still a feeling. Numbness is still a feeling. We never stop feeling, no matter how much we try and mask ourselves from it, but it's there. We have just managed to suppress it. We have just managed to suppress it. And I'm learning that feeling is a beautiful thing. I used to be so nonchalant, but as I'm growing into myself, I'm like, okay, it's time to start feeling, it's time to start feeling, feel emotions, so that I don't harbor and cause like blockages within myself, when I could use these emotions to grow and be better and do better each time. And what I will say though is also that time is a real thing when it comes to our emotions, because especially when you are either a fast reacting person or a slow reactive person, I think that these two differences are really important, and it's really important when you are considering who you are interacting with, especially people that you've known a long time. Like learning their patterns is very important because, okay, so personally, I process things slowly, and I'll be on my own on a random day and be like, wait, so this happened. And then I'll have a reaction then and be like, wait, this did not make me feel good at all, you know? But it definitely varies. It depends on what I'm doing in the moment and what is happening with whoever I'm interacting with. So it's like understanding those parts, those patterns, and how these things happen is really important. And I feel like when we go back to alchemizing, we can alchemize our emotions directly into our art, directly into pushing ourselves to do better, you know? And I love that about it. It's like it's energy. Wait, I was reading something. Let me think back, guys. There's this author, The Power of Being, Supernatural, Joel Esperanza. He says that emotion is energy in motion. No, that is actually smart. Okay, so when we go back to alchemizing, ultimately when we alchemize certain energy into a new energy. So that's where this is going. That's where this is going. No, but I need to go back to reading that book though. um yeah. But besides that, we are energy. How we feel, our voices when we speak, we are transmuting energy. We process energy through our eyes, our ears, our brains. You know, I have now opened my mind to how supernatural humans really are. We are supernatural. Did you know that? Did you know that? But besides that, I think that it's imperative at this point. Should you be on a journey on uh, should you be on a journey of being a better person, I think that alchemizing energy is one of the best ways to do that. So instead of reacting the same way to the same situation, what you can do is alchemize whatever energy is coming from that situation. So a very simple example is, say you were writing a test and you failed that test and you failed that test. Instead of being angry about it or deciding to give up, you will take that failure as motivation to study harder and do way, 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 way better. Yeah, that's a really simple example. And so I will be taking that lesson. That's my lesson for the day. Alchemize your emotions. Because at the end of the day, I think that as humans, we are kind of like in this cycle where we experience, learn, alchemize, experience, learn, alchemize. And it's a beautiful growth journey. It's a really cool thing to be able to do, you know? But without talking too much, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.